Thomas Edwards Jr. Brother, how are you?
What's going on, brother? So good to see you, man.
Likewise, likewise. So yeah, this was like such a last minute situation. I know we were going back and forth, and thank you so much for your flexibility. You're a rock star, man.
Of course, man, and thank you. I mean, this a lot of good things are happening, which is why oftentimes life changes things up. Baruch's
Totally.
had a baby,
I know.
I'm on the road, like things are amazing.
I
So
know. I
yeah,
know. This is awesome. We were so excited. This is so cool. But you know what? We owe this to our audience. And you're just like you're so generous with just everything about you. And I felt like, even our story, how we met. It's so important to share that with everybody. So I was like, 13 hours or no driving. I don't care. I'm pulling over. I'm getting that Thomas online. We're recording this pre-recorded. So I
yeah.
mean, unfortunately, I'll be on the road while this goes live. But this is so cool, and I'm so glad we actually were able to make it. So, without further ado, brother, let me introduce you. This is the one and only, the most incredible Thomas Edwards Jr. Quickly, let's just introduce who he is. I have to pull this up, so excuse me 1 second. But Thomas Edward Jr. is the author of The OneUP Effect, a playfulness coach and innovative visionary of maximizing fulfillment in life, using his unique game-like mythology for high-level transformation. Edwards works with professionals, leaders, and businesses who seek to level up their purpose, joy, passion, and achievement. A former professional wingman, Thomas Edwards Jr. has been featured in hundreds of media outlets, including Men's Health, Wall Street Journal, GQ, Entrepreneur, the New York Times, as well as MTV, ABC, the Steve Harvey Show. This guy has long list of like accolades. So we love this man right here. We're so honored and privileged to have this incredible individual who, not only that, he hangs out with his wife, his kids, his 4-year-old daughter, and you could find him always playing some kind of awesome video game at home in his Carlsbad, California. And this is so like your whole life is just like so cool. Do you want to just give us like a brief synopsis of who's Thomas? How did he get here? What's this one up thing? And we're going to
Yeah,
talk about that in a second.
yeah, for sure. I mean, because they'll get into how we met. So I love that bio. I didn't write that one, so I just love when other people read it. It's so good because it does sum up a good portion of who I am. When people ask me like, who am I? The first thing I say is that I'm a father.
Yeah.
I have an amazing 5-year-old daughter. She is everything to me, and she's my inspiration, and she reminds me every day that I get to live my life with joy and with this perspective of play and wonder. And she's a huge inspiration behind the one up effects. But for those who aren't sure what a playfulness coach is, what I do is I use playfulness as an elite form of mindfulness to really tap into your human potential. And when we use the lens of playfulness, a lot of things happen, but most significantly, we experience less stress throughout life, which means we virtually eliminate burnout because no one burns out when they're having fun.
So true.
And it really puts you in a position to use parts of your brain and what I like to, I mean, you and I talk about this, our connection to purpose, our connection to spirit, a connection to others in a way that other forms of mindfulness cannot do. And so when we think about maximizing productivity, increasing performance, relieving stress, having more fun, reaching greater levels of achievement, experiencing more passion in our lives, playfulness has always been the way that we've done it the most effectively from birth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for me, my life was not all fun and games. I wanted it to be. Just didn't work out that way. Came from, I'm first generation American born. My family's from Jamaica, and I was under this really big pressure to succeed here in America. Especially as a golden child here, and the world of opportunities was available to me, and so I was driven under this idea that if I created success in my life, that I would matter, that I would be loved, praised, and acknowledged. And my first business, as you know, it was heard in the bio, I started my first company called The Professional Wingman, which was really about helping people develop the social skills necessary to create and find long-term romantic relationships. And
Mm.
I was really good at that. So good that I was featured all over the world in every possible media
Wow.
publication, on TV a bunch, responsible for well over 300 marriages, engagements,
Wow.
relationships, kids. I mean, the whole thing. And
Wow.
when I reached
Mhm.
that level of success, which for me, it climaxed at being on the Steve Harvey show. I
Wow.
was asked to come in. They flew me out to Chicago, crushed the segment. I remember celebrating on a rooftop bar, and I was looking at the reflection of the glass and thinking to myself, man, I made it. I got all the money, I got the status, I got people praising me, loving me. I was engaged to be married at the time. I mean, life was incredible. And then I felt this emptiness right
Mm.
after. And I was like, why am I not happy? Why don't I feel fulfilled? And it caught me off guard because I didn't expect that to happen. And that experience stayed. Didn't
Mm.
matter what I tried to do, it wasn't enough. And it led me
Wow.
down a very dark path that was riddled with depression, drugs and alcohol abuse, a lot of escapism, dissolving
Mm.
relationships, emotional, physical, spiritual, mental neglect. I mean, it was everything was falling apart for me. And it got to the point where I realized that the hole that I put myself in, the darkness that I surrounded myself with, I didn't know how to get out. And
Mm.
I didn't know who to talk to about this. I didn't know that I could talk to people about this because I was raised under the idea that I should figure it out by myself. And while my parents didn't directly teach this to me, I just had this story in my mind that asking for help was a sign of weakness.
Well, yeah.
And it led me to where I was. And so finally, I decided, you know what? I couldn't go much further. I need support. And I started to receive all kinds of support. And then I went all in on that. And
Mm.
while my life was incrementally getting better, things just wouldn't stay better. I'd have some type of episode where I would escape and just be inconsistent and incongruent
Mm.
and not in
Mm.
integrity with who I was and what I was saying. And so eventually it got to a point where I went on my last bender. This was, early January of 2019. And I woke up the next day and I felt like a completely different person.
Wow.
The best way I can describe it was in the movie The Matrix when Neo's finally unplugged and he's, now in the Nebuchadnezzar and they're working on his body. And he asked Morpheus, why do my eyes hurt? And Morpheus says, you've never used them before. That
Mm.
was that day for me, January
Yeah.
14th, 2019,
Wow.
a world where, drinking, escapism, drug use, like none of those things were accessible to me anymore. And I felt like God came in and just said, you've had enough. We're going to take that away from you. You don't need to do that anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
it set me off on a path to feel more spiritually grounded and connected. And I noticed my life was getting better and staying better.
Mm.
And while that was great because it allowed me to keep my family together, it allowed me to get my health back, it allowed me to be more mentally fit and spiritually grounded and surround myself with a great support system and friends that care and support me. I still wasn't having fun. Like I still wasn't enjoying life. And that was a huge problem for me because
Sure.
I knew if I couldn't find the joy in how I was living my life, this new life of mine, that it was going to be only a matter of time before I would want to escape it. And I didn't want to do
Mm.
that anymore. So I set out on a quest to figure out what that fun was for me. And it reconnected me with my first passion, which was video games. I actually went to school to become a video game producer. I've been
Wow.
passionate about games since I was a little kid. And for the majority of my 20s and well into my 30s, I let that go because I allowed the external programs that I was told about video games to take over my life, such as
Mm.
too busy to play video games. Video games are for kids. You can't be a successful entrepreneur or a professional wingman and play video games. Video games aren't cool. Like all these
Right.
things that I knew weren't true, I adopted as my own. And for me, video games were never a source of escapism for me. In fact, video games were my ultimate source of creativity,
Mm.
expression, connection, wonder, curiosity, competitive nature, willingness, openness. It was just so much. And so I decided to pursue it. It was a small stint, but I decided to pursue a career as a professional gamer, otherwise known as an esports athlete. And
Yeah.
I was competing in a tournament, and I did okay. I did all right for a newbie. And but more importantly, I had so much fun in that experience, end to end. From making the choice to pursue that career and enter that tournament, to the training, to the competition itself, and the connections I was making while I was there. And I remember walking away thinking to myself, man, like that was an amazing 3 months. I
Wow.
wonder what would life be like if I treated my entire life like a game. And then that's when it clicked with me. It's like, I would enjoy everything about my life, even the parts that I thought was boring.
Yeah.
And I thought back to my first game that I played was Super Mario Brothers. And I remember when you're on your last life in Super Mario, like it's just such a anxiety, stress ridden experience because all you're trying to do is survive to get to the end just so you can do it over again. And I thought,
Sure.
wow, isn't that a great analogy for life? So many people out there are just trying to get through the day so they can survive just to wake up and do it all over again. And I didn't want to live
Right.
that life. But something psychologically shifts when you get your first extra life. This is what's known as a
Mm.
OneUP and the green mushroom. Now all of a sudden you feel like, wow, I don't have to rush. I don't have to feel like this needs to be this survival experience. I can take my time. I can take risks. I can explore. I can be more willing to face challenges because, if Mario gets hit by Koopa or falls in the pit, he has an extra life. And not only does he have an extra life to do it again, you now have feedback. You now
Mm.
know what not to do to give yourself a
Hmm.
better chance to get over that challenge. And because it's a game, it's designed to be fun. So you're willing to try again and you're willing to do it
Sure.
over and over again to get to that fulfillment, which is not just getting to the end of the level, but the experience of knowing that you were able to become better than when you started the game. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing effect. And I was like, one up effect. That would
Ah.
be really cool. So yeah,
Mm.
so that's where the Wump effect came into play. Now I'm working with some amazing individuals, top performers in various industries, looking to not just experience what we hear as work-life balance, because I don't personally believe that exists. I don't think
Mm.
balance, because when you think about balance, balance is a single point in time where you're able to manage everything. But as you and
Right.
I know, and I'm sure people listening here, you're constantly moving as you're trying to balance everything as it's coming together.
Right.
And this idea of work and life being separate things is also a facade. You know,
Hmm.
you just have your life.
Yeah.
And work is just a part of your life. But I also
Yeah.
believe that it's all synergistic. What that means is you are so much bigger than what you do and the sum of what you do,
Right.
and it's all just meant to be synergistic.
Mhm.
And so when I work with my clients, I help them create a life where it's not even just them reaching levels of achievement that they desire, but I help them learn how to enjoy the process of their growth.
Love it.
I help them learn that it's not about
Mhm.
affluence and money, power, and status that's important. It's about being affluent in your time, the time that you have to experience and enjoy life. And now I'm taking this methodology and I'm actually working with the businesses to help them overhaul their mental health programs and
Mm.
their wellness programming to help their employees feel like in this world where it's work from home or even hybrid, that they have the capacity to live life along with their ability to work and perform at a high level. And studies have shown when you're happier, you do more.
Yeah.
And you have a greater impact, not just on you, but on other people that you surround yourself with. And so for me, I feel like playfulness is the key to living the kind of life that we all want. And I want to teach people how they can play, make life a game that they can win and have fun playing.